Good day, this is the Professor, CBMD PhD. It's today Sunday, May 24th, 2026. It is 5:48 and 59 seconds, a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And today's research, nutritional science. So let's hop to it here. We may define a food to be any substance which will repair the functional waste of the body, increase its growth, or maintain the heat, muscular, and nervous energy. In its most comprehensive sense, the oxygen of the air is a food, as although it is emitted by the lungs, it passes into the blood, and there reacts upon the other food which has passed through the stomach. It is usual, however, to restrict the term foods to such nutriment as enters the body by the intestinal canal. Water is often spoken of as being distinct from food, but for this there is no sufficient reason. Many popular writers have divided foods into flesh formers, heat givers, and bone formers. Although attractive from its simplicity, the classification will not bear criticism. Flesh formers are also heat givers. Only a portion of the mineral matter goes to form bone. Water forms an essential part of all the tissues of the body. It is a solvent and carrier of other substances. Mineral matter or salts is left as an ash when food is thoroughly burnt. The most important salts are calcium phosphate carbonate and fluoride, sodium chloride, potassium phosphate and chloride, and compounds of magnesium, iron, and silicon. Mineral matter is quite as necessary for plants as for animal life, and is therefore present in all food, except in the case of some highly prepared ones, such as sugar, starch, and oil. Children require a good proportion of calcium phosphate for the growth of their bones, whilst adults require less. The outer part of the grain of cereals is the richest in mineral constituents. White flour and rice are deficient. Wheatmeal and oatmeal are especially recommended for the quantity of phosphates and other salts contained in them. Mineral matter is necessary not only for the bones but for every tissue of the body. When haricots are cooked, the liquid is often thrown away, and the beans served nearly dry, or with parsley or other sauce. Not only is the food less tasty, but important saline constituents are lost. The following experiments: German whole lentils, Egyptian split red lentils, medium haricot beans were soaked all night, 16 hours in just sufficient cold water to keep them covered. The water was poured off and evaporated. The residue heated in steam oven to perfect dryness and weighed. After pouring off the water, the haricots were boiled in more water until thoroughly cooked, the liquid being kept as low as possible. The liquid was poured off as clear as possible from the haricots evaporated and dried. The ash was taken in each case. The alkalinity of the water-soluble ash is calculated as potash, K2O. The quantity of water which could be poured off was with the German lentils, half as much more than the original weight of the pulps. Not quite as much could be poured off the others. The loss on soaking in cold water, unless the water is preserved, is seen to be considerable. The split lentils, having had the protecting skin removed, lost most. In every case, the ash contained a good deal of phosphate and lime. Potatoes are rich in important potash salts. By boiling, a large quantity is lost. By steaming less and by making in the skins scarcely any. The flavor is also much better after baking. The usual addition of common salt, sodium chloride, to boiled potatoes is no proper substitute for the loss of their natural saline constituents. Natural and properly cooked foods are so rich in sodium chloride and other salts that the addition of common salt is unnecessary. An excess of the latter excites thirst and spoils the natural flavor of the food. It is the custom, especially in restaurants, to add a large quantity of salt to pulse savory food, potatoes, and soups. Baker's brown bread is usually very salt, and sometimes white is also. In some persons, much salt causes irritation of the skin, and the writer has knowledge of the salt food at vegetarian restaurants causing or increasing dandruff. As a rule, fondness for salt is an acquired taste, and after its discontinuance for a time, food thus flavored becomes unpalatable. Organic compounds are formed by living organisms. A few can also be produced by chemical means. They are entirely decomposed by combustion. The non-nitrogenous organic compounds are commonly called carbon compounds, or heat producers, but these terms are also descriptive of the nitrogenous compounds. These contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, only and furnished by their oxidation or combustion in the body. The necessary heat, muscular, and nervous energy. The final product of their combustion is water and carbon dioxide, carbonic acid gas. The carbohydrates comprise starch, sugar, gum, mucilage, pectose, glycogen, and cellulose. A woody fiber are carbohydrates but are little capable of digestion. They contain hydrogen and oxygen in a proportion to form water. The carbon alone being available to produce heat by combustion. Starch is the most widely distributed food. It is insoluble in water, but when cooked is readily digested and absorbed by the body. Starch is readily converted into sugar, whether in plants or animals during digestion. There are many kinds of sugar, such as grape, cane, and milk sugars. The oils and fats consist of the same elements as the carbohydrates, but the hydrogen is in large quantity than is necessary to form water, and this surplus is available for the production of energy. During their combustion in the body, they produce nearly 2¼ times. 4 ratio 8.9 equals 2.225, as much heat as the carbohydrates. But if eaten in more than small quantities, they are not easily digested, a portion passing away by the intestines. The fat in the body is not solely dependent upon the quantity consumed as food, as an animal may become quite fat on food containing none. A moderate quantity favors digestion and the bodily health. In cold weather more should be taken. In the Arctic regions, the Eskimos consume enormous quantities. Nuts are generally rich in oil. Oatmeal contains more than any of the other cereals. 27 analysis gave from 8 to 12.3%. The most esteemed and dearest oil is almond, but is called peach kernel oil, but which in commerce includes the oil obtained from plum and apricot stones. It is almost as tasteless and useful, whilst it is considerably cheaper. It is a very agreeable and useful food. It is often added to as an adulterant or substituted for the true almond oil. The best qualities of olive oil are much esteemed, though they are not as agreeable to English taste as the oil previously mentioned. The best qualities are termed virgin, extra sublime, and sublime, meaning that it has been exposed for more than a short time to the light and heat of a shop window should be rejected, as the flavor is affected. It should be kept in a cool place. Not only does it vary much in freedom from acid and rancidity, but it is frequently adulterated. 2 other cheaper oils deserve mention. The cold-drawn Arachis oil, peanut or earth nut oil, has a pleasant flavor, resembling that of kidney beans. The cold-drawn sesame seed oil has an agreeable taste, and is considered equal to olive oil for edible purposes. The best qualities are rather difficult to obtain, those usually sold being much inferior to peach kernel and olive oils. Cottonseed oil is the cheapest of the edible ones. Salad oil, not sold under a descriptive name, is usually refined cottonseed oil, with perhaps a little olive oil to impart a richer flavor. The solid fat sold as butter and large substitutes consist of deodorized coconut oil, and they are excellent for cooking purposes. It is claimed that biscuits and seed made from them may be kept for a much longer period, without showing any trace of rancidity, than if butter or lard had been used. They are also to be had agreeably flavored by a mixture with almond, walnut, and cream. The better quality oils are quite as wholesome as the best fresh butter, and better than most butter as solid. Bread can be dipped into oil, or a little solid vegetable fat spread on it. The author prefers to pour a little peach kernel oil upon some ground walnut kernels, or other ground nuts, in themselves rich in oil. Mix with a knife to a suitable consistency and spread upon the bread. Pine kernels are very oily and can be used in pastry in the place of butter or lard. Whenever oils are mentioned without a prefix, the fixed or fatty oils are always understood. The volatile or essential oils are a distinct class. Occasionally, the fixed oils are called hydrocarbons, but hydrocarbon oils are quite different and consist of carbon and hydrogen alone. Of these, petroleum is incapable of digestion, whilst others are poisonous. Vegetable acids are composed of the same three elements and undergo combustion into the same compounds as carbohydrates. They rouse the appetite, stimulate digestion, and finally from carbonates in combination with the alkalis, thus increasing the alkalinity of the blood. The chief vegetable acids are malic acid in the apple, pear, cherry, and C, citric acid in the lemon, lime, orange, gooseberry, cranberry, strawberry, raspberry, and C, tartaric acid in the grape, pineapple, and C. Some place these under class 3 or food adjuncts. Oxalic acid except when in the insoluble state of calcium oxalate, and several other acids are poisonous. Proteids or albuminoids are frequently termed flesh formers. They are composed of nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and a small quantity of sulfur, and are extremely complex bodies. Their chief function is to form flesh in the body, but without previously forming it. They may be transformed into fat or merely give rise to heat. They form the essential part of every living cell. Proteids are excreted from the body as water, carbon dioxide, urea, uric acid, sulfates, and C. The principal proteids of animal origin have their own corresponding proteids in the vegetable kingdom. Some kinds, whether of animal and vegetable origin, are more easily digested than others. They have the same physiological value from whichever kingdom they are derived. The oosids comprise ozin, gelatin, cartilage, and C, from bone, skin, and connective tissue. They approach the proteids in composition, but unlike them, they cannot form flesh or fulfill the same purpose in nutrition. Some food chemists wish to call the oosids albuminoids, what were formerly termed albuminoids to be always spoken of as proteids only. Jellies are of little use as food. Not only is this because of the low nutritive value of gelatin, but also on account of the small quantity which is mixed with a large proportion of water. The vegetable kingdom is the prime source of all organic food. Water, and to a slight extent salts, form the only food that animals can derive directly from the inorganic kingdom. When man consumes animal food, a sheep for example, he is only consuming a portion of the food which that sheep obtained from grass, clover, turnips, and seed. All the proteids of the flesh once existed as proteids in the vegetables, some in exactly the same chemical form. Flesh contains no starch or sugar, but a small quantity of glycogen. The fat in an animal is derived from the carbohydrates. The fats and the proteids of the vegetables consume. The soil that produced the herbage, grain, and roots, consumed by cattle, in most cases could have produced food capable of direct utilization by man. By passing the products of the soil through animals, there is an enormous economic loss, as the greater part of the food is dissipated in maintaining the life and growth. Little remains as flesh when the animal is delivered into the hands of the manufacturer. Some imagine that flesh food is more easily converted into flesh and blood in our bodies, and is consequently more valuable than similar constituents in vegetables, but such is not the case. Fat, whether from flesh or from vegetables, is digested in the same manner. Ingestible matter. Food is never entirely digested. As a reason against confining ourselves solely to vegetable food, it has been stated that such is less perfectly digested than animal food, and that it therefore throws more work on the digestive organs. It is also urged that on this account a greater quantity of vegetable food is required. We have shown elsewhere that, on the contrary, vegetarians are satisfied with a smaller amount of food. Man requires a small quantity of woody fiber or cellulose in his food to stimulate intestinal action and prevent constipation. It is difficult to determine how much of a food is unassimilated in the body. This is for the reason of the intestinal refuse consisting not only of undigested food, but also of residues of digestive juices, mucus, and epithelial debris. These later have been shown to amount to from 1/3 to 1/2 of the whole of the feces, which is much more than had previously been supposed. And this video was created for educational purposes only. Hope you enjoyed listening. My code name is Will. I'm Professor Christopher Brunet, leader of research scientist, ufologist, psychic, computer technician, computer programmer, philanthropist, writer, mathematician, artist, photographer, film producer, chef, animal, and nature lover. My passion is world peace. Have a great day. Good day. This is the Professor, CBMD,